All right, now, everybody. Quiet, listen to me. We're going to start a show. Now, some of you people have been with me before. You know it's going to be a tough grind, but we're going to have a show.
Thank you all for making your way into the studio on this day that we have some internet issues, and we're going to be bouncing in and out. I've got some backups and some other technical systems that are sliding into place. Kim is here to back us up.
How are you?
We need to truly fill in, and Tony is on board as well. Plus, Brother Rothmann will be by bottom of the hour. We've got quite a terrifically packed show with a lot of information related to this Hegseth mess. This is what happens, one could argue, when you put a pretty boy, know-nothing, incompetent in charge of the largest military in the world, the biggest military budget in the world, and when you're all about performance in theater and you treat the military and those in the military like chess pieces and like it's one big puppet show that you're putting on for the world instead of actually thinking through policy. And so with Trump, who is a one-dimensional president, also informed by incompetence and utter theater, and you add that into the mix, you have a total mess where no one's taking any responsibility for anything. Pete Hegseth uses words like lethality, fighting force. He loves the theater, the lean in with that square jaw. But Pete Hegseth, as we know, is a lightweight. And now his lightweightedness is very much on display. And we'll get to it in a big way. And how this scandal, and it should be a scandal. I mean, the fact that we are attacking these boats off the coast of Venezuela, that should be a scandal. This is a completely unjustified military exercise. It falls into the category of the unjustified presence of the National Guard in American cities, the unjustified presence of ICE agents in areas around America that have no problem with Tren de Agua or MS-13, but still these ICE agents, these, glorified high school linebackers who couldn't make the pros, couldn't make the college team, but now at age 40, they pack themselves into a pair of jeans and a T-shirt. They grab some handcuffs and zip ties, and they blow into American cities in their SUVs and just masked as they are, drag people away from high school graduations, from daycare centers, from court-appointed adjudications for their immigration status. It's all of a kind. So we'll get to all of that. I will apologize in advance, which, by the way, I think is a good thing that we should all do a lot of the time.
Would you like to apologize for what you've done?
I always say to Courtney, honey, good morning, and I'm sorry. I'm sorry for something I'm going to do today that I'm going to have to apologize for, that you're not going to like. And so I'm sorry in this case for signal problems that I think we may sort of have from time to time. I've had the new hardware installed, but I'm going to get some additional hardware and backup hardware. So all of these signal problems are, as the guy was saying, your problem is you live in a good neighborhood. The good neighborhoods don't have good Wi-Fi and good
really
and good signal. Because the hills. I live in the hills.
Oh.
And he says, so you don't have good cell service here because it's the hills. And then there's a limit to what you can get from the cable modem. So you can't get fiber in the hills either. So that's kind of where I am. But then he said, it's not, he said, so, it's great that it's a good neighborhood, but it's just, you can't.
Did you tell him we were fine for at least a year before they started messing with it?
Yeah, I should have said that.
Yeah.
He didn't really feel like, well, my sense was he didn't help build it. He was just the guy who was kind of, dealing with it. So, all right. So, look, we've got a lot to get to, so I don't want to hold up too much longer. I had a great time meeting a few people last night in person who showed up in Los Angeles and said hello to me at a KFI meetup. For those who don't know, I'm on the radio in Los Angeles on a station called KFI. It's the biggest talk station in America, actually. Now that KGO is gone.
Yeah.
We used to be on KGO. And so they had a huge event for a charity called Katerina's Club, and it was so wonderful to meet so many people there. And there were people there rocking our merch.
Oh.
Believe it or not.
That's
I think
nice.
I sent you, Tony, didn't I send you I know I sent you, Kim, a picture. And there are a series of pictures. I forwarded on a series of pictures from one of our merch wearers. But anyway, it's not important. We can get to it later, and I will get to it later, and we'll all regale each other with great stories as we continue. So,
The Mark Thompson Show.
if you're joining us, America's favorite pretty boy who is running the Department of Defense finds himself hip deep in trouble, hip deep in a situation he created. He and Emperor Trump have decided to create an issue with Venezuela. There is a hypocrisy to this associated with the pardon that or commutation that Donald Trump has just granted to the former president of Honduras, who was sentenced, as you're aware, to 45 years. I'll get to that. In fact, I'll share parts of a 4-page plea on the part of the Honduran president to Trump. I'll share parts of that letter with you later. But for now, it is Pete Hegseth who finds himself in the slop. Here's how it played last night on World News.
Tonight, under mounting pressure, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth insisting the decision to launch a second strike against a suspected drug boat in September was not his call, but that of the mission's commander, Admiral Mitch Bradley.
Sunk the boat and eliminated the threat. And it was the right call. We have his back.
The Washington Post reports that at the outset of the operation, Hegseth had given orders to kill everyone on board, which is why the Post said Bradley fired a second missile, targeting 2 survivors clinging to the wreckage. International law prohibits killing enemy combatants who no longer pose a threat. The day after the attack, Hegseth said he had watched in real time.
I watched it live. We knew exactly who was in that boat. We knew exactly what they were doing.
But today, Hegseth said he left before the second strike.
I watched that first strike live. As you can imagine, at the Department of War, we got a lot of things to do. So I didn't stick around for the hour and 2 hours, whatever, where all the sensitive site exploitation digitally occurs. So I moved on to my next meeting.
Hegseth was asked if he saw survivors.
I did not personally see survivors, but I stand, because the thing was on fire. It was exploded and fire or smoke. You can't see anything. You got digital. This is called the fog of war.
The secretary claims he didn't hear about the second strike until an hour or so later. Over the weekend, President Trump said he hadn't known about the second strike and wouldn't have wanted it.
We'll look into it. But no, I wouldn't have wanted that, not a second strike. The first strike was very lethal. It was fine. And if there were 2 people around, but Pete said that didn't happen.
And today, sitting next to his secretary, the president said he was still somewhat in the dark.
I still haven't gotten a lot of information because I rely on Pete. But to me, it was an attack. It wasn't 1 strike, 2 strikes, 3 strikes. Somebody asked me a question about the second strike. I didn't know about the second strike. I didn't know anything about people. I wasn't involved in it. I knew they took out a boat.
So tonight, David, Secretary Hegseth is saying he didn't see the second strike, and the president says he had not been aware of it. Members of Congress are wondering who holds final responsibility up the chain of command. This week, they could get some answers with Admiral Bradley heading to the Hill to meet with lawmakers behind closed doors.
So there you have it. And there is a lot that lawmakers want to do. There are a lot of investigations underway. But, weeks go by with these guys cosplaying as, the narco terminators in the Caribbean, taking out these boats. And finally, they stepped in it. Because A, we don't know that these boats actually carried any drugs to begin with, and B, the way in which they're taking them out, even if they are carrying drugs, is contrary to all of those regulatory aspects concerned with the military and rules of engagement. And that changing the rules of engagement reference that Hegseth made some months ago, all of a sudden it's super relevant. But the basic rules of war and the rules of engagement understood worldwide, and certainly understood in America, dictate that you don't double back and take out survivors. And so this guy who was peacocking to Fox News and to the Trump base, and then to all of America as Secretary of War, this guy who claimed, I saw it all, this isn't some kind of AI, I saw it, I was there live, all of a sudden, no, but you know, I saw the first part, then, yeah, you know, it was happy hour at the Pentagon, so I had to go over, I grabbed a quick cocktail, said hello to some people, I have meetings, I'm a very important man. You can imagine, I love that part. You can imagine how busy we are at the War Department.
Apparently, so, just murder's just another day. Move on.
So this guy who was peacocking, all of a sudden, you've got him the day after. It was a little bit in that piece about, I saw it. Here he is on Fox News, Hegseth the day after, with the basically saying, hey, look, I was there. I mean, he did everything, but, this guy claims credit. He reminds me a lot of Kash Patel. These guys, again, they're all performative. They want to claim credit when they think it's glory, but they want to backstep when they think there's a stink on it. And so here's the glory part.
I can tell you that was definitely not artificial intelligence. I watched it live. We knew exactly who was in that boat. We knew exactly what they were doing, and we knew exactly who they represented. And that was Tren de Aragua, a narco-terrorist organization designated by the United States, trying to poison our country with illicit drugs.
There you go. That's that. And then the fallout now and the changing story. Well, I saw the first part, but the thing was on fire. I mean, who could really see if there were any survivors? And then he serves up the admiral like a short order chef to a hungry restaurant of press as the culpable party, even as he says, I stand behind him. Yeah, I stand behind him, way behind him, so far behind him you can't even see me. Here is the piece from the Today Show this morning.
This morning, President Trump and Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth distancing themselves from the growing controversy around that September attack, where the military launched a second strike on an alleged Venezuelan drug boat in the Caribbean, killing survivors of the initial attack, according to one U.S. official and a source familiar with the Pentagon's actions. Hegseth saying yesterday he watched the first strike live, then left for other meetings before learning a second strike took place.
I did not personally see survivors, but I stand, because the thing was on fire. It was exploded in fire and smoke. You can't see anything. You got digital. This is called the fog of war.
Some legal experts say if the second strike was ordered to kill people who were otherwise incapacitated, it amounts to a war crime. Hegseth saying Admiral Frank Bradley, the commander of the operation, made the decision, adding that he stands by it. Bradley is set to speak with lawmakers this week, some, including one Republican, expressing concerns he's being made a scapegoat.
Looks to me like they're trying to pin the blame on somebody else and not them.
The president deferring to Hegseth.
But to me, it was an attack. It wasn't one strike, two strikes, three strikes. I didn't know about the second strike. I didn't know anything about people. I wasn't involved in it.
President Trump also saying there are more attacks to come.
We have to, we'll attack on land also.
In the
Yeah, so this is the key here as we button out the Hegseth stuff. When you hear Rand Paul saying, what is the obvious? That he seems to be trying to blame someone else after pretty much understanding and claiming responsibility for the entire thing prior. In addition, and we're kind of blowing past it, but it's pretty significant, if he gave the orders to kill them all, that in itself is something that warrants an investigation and real questions as to why. Now, he makes this statement, and these are the kinds of sweeping statements they like to make. We knew everybody on that boat. We knew everything about that boat. We knew, and believe me, we're on top of this. This is the United States of America making Americans safe. The more I hear about making Americans safe and about the national security threat, Caroline Leavitt is also always talking about it. It's just a complete smokescreen for incompetence. And in this case, I have no faith that they know anything about that boat. They can't wait to uncork these snuff films of them taking out these mariners. Are they narco-terrorists? All I hear about is narco-terrorists. It's a great label. It's branding. We don't know who these guys are. One of the boats is headed away from a direction that would have put them on course toward America. None of them are going to make it all the way to America in those small boats with those tiny engines. So, I mean, I understand we're lay people, but we're not stupid people. But you should know that this is being played both ways. And Tony, skip to the Fox News coverage, if you would. This is Fox News on the questions surrounding Pete Hegseth and this kill order. And if it's easier for you, you can run that Rand Paul thing that you've got up in the gate first. And then while we're looking at Rand Paul, Tony, if you want to look at this, if Tony might be freezing up as well. I don't know.
No, I
Tony,
think
are you still with us? Oh, I think he's freezing. We've had so many internet problems. It's like a collection of real issues. I think Tony's done too. So I will play for you before the end of the hour, even the way it's playing on Fox News. And here's the reason I want you to play this to see it, because there is, believe it or not, a bubble that we're all in. Okay, and even those of us who try to periscope up and get outside the bubble, on some level, I get it. I get all these texts. I get emails. Isn't this the thing? Isn't Hegseth done? Isn't this administration done? Isn't the lawlessness of this administration on full display? Look at the way he pardoned someone who is legitimately a narco-terrorist, the former president of Honduras. Got a 45-year sentence. Now he's pardoned. The answer is it should be the end. It should be over. Hegseth should resign. Hegseth never should have had the job to begin with. But the more dogged Hegseth is in his allegiance to Trump, the more Trump is loath to fire him. Also, remember when he fires Hegseth, a little bit of that splatter gets onto him. And it's just something that he doesn't want. So easier for the moment to double down rather than to dismiss Hegseth. So that's a little of what's going on there. But this might be of interest to you. The military struck a boat in the Caribbean 4 times in the September 2nd attack, according to one official. So this boat, where we talk about the doubleback, there were actually multiple doublebacks. The U.S. military struck an alleged drug trafficking boat in the Caribbean at the center of this controversy involving Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth 4 times, not just the 2 times. This, according to a U.S. official who spoke to The Hill that broke this story. That happened just hours ago, this story broke. The full attack killed 11 people on board the ship as part of an operation by the Trump administration against what it says are narco-terrorists. The U.S. Armed Forces hit the purported drug smuggling vessel 4 times on September 2nd, twice to kill the 11 people who were on board, and twice more to sink the vessel. Again, there are going to be multiple investigations. The Trump administration saying that the U.S. military carried out these strikes because individuals linked to Tren de Aragua, the international crime syndicate designated as a foreign terrorist organization by the U.S. government, they were on board. Of course, the designation is not nothing either. Remember, once you designate an organization as a terrorist organization, it allows you a broader breadth in those things that you can do from a military standpoint. And so that's that. Former JAGs are saying Hegseth and others may have committed war crimes to the point that they should really lawyer up. They should be worried. A group of former military lawyers issuing a memo condemning Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth for allegedly ordering a special operations commander and military personnel to kill everybody aboard on this alleged drug mission. This is what I was talking about. Like, go back to the very beginning. The one thing that you have wrapped your arms around, Pete Hegseth, this may be illegal, and likely is. The former JAGS working group came forth with this memo, and this after it was reported that Admiral Frank Mitch Bradley, who led the Joint Special Operations Command at the time, ordered the SEAL Team 6 to fire a second strike after the initial strike left 2 individuals clinging to the wreckage. He did that in compliance with the Hegseth Directive. It was the first strike in the U.S. Southern Command Area of Responsibility as part of what the Pentagon's calling counter-narcotics efforts, and the survivors were killed as a result of the follow-up strike. But the former JAGS working group unanimously considers, this is a quote from their memo, both the giving and the execution of these orders, if true, to constitute war crimes, murder, or both. The group was created in February after Hegseth fired Army JAG Lieutenant General Joseph Berger III and Air Force JAG Lieutenant General Charles Plummer for not being, quote, well-suited to provide recommendations when lawful orders were given. They say in their memo that these actions eroded the military's legal framework to prevent war crimes like this September 2nd strike that they consider unlawful from happening. And I made this point yesterday. I'd like to just repeat it because I think it's important to keep in mind. The more you hear things coming from the Pentagon and the military that has been cocooned essentially from the press, you understand the press, any press worth their salt, all the mainstream media, many even independent journalists wouldn't sign that pledge which committed to not publishing any information, any reports that didn't come from Pete Hegseth's office or get cleared by Pete Hegseth's office. So what you're hearing from the Pentagon and about military operations is coming from those who are leaking from the Pentagon. And why are they? And this is my point. Because he doesn't have the allegiance of the military. He's viewed the way we view him, as a joke, as an incompetent, as in over his head. He's viewed that way by much of the military. And so that's why you get the biggest reporting on this story. This story was generated by the Washington Post. They're not signatories to that ridiculous pledge where we have to clear everything through the Pentagon office. No, this reporting was done as a result of people at the Washington Post being the recipients of communications from those working inside the military who are looking at this going, this is wrong, this is illegal, this is immoral, this is unethical, and we are sick, nauseated that leadership at the Pentagon is part of this. And so the biggest reporting on this story was broken by journalists who were getting information from inside the Pentagon. They didn't even need to be at the Pentagon. They're not allowed at the Pentagon because they wouldn't sign that ridiculous press pledge. So this is important because that same dance is being played out in other parts of government. Those who have dedicated decades to service at the FBI, they're also nauseated by the Kash Patel leadership, by the Dan Bongino leadership. You can read the reports. If I've got time, I'll share them with you. These guys are in over their head. So at DOD, there's a crisis. And Fox News can spin it, and I'll play you the Fox News spin, which is these are the Democrats. They're trying to make an issue out of this. This is a lawful attack on narco-terrorists. They can spin it that way. But the reality is Hegseth is in trouble. And you can tell by the number of times that Donald Trump says, I didn't know anything about it. I don't know this. I don't, Who's Pete Hegseth?
Couple of things.
Yeah.
One of the commenters said, yeah, pass the hot potato, right? Debbie with $10 says, I've read a bit lately that says those fast boats can't make it to the USA. Usually they go to Trinidad and Tobago and the Dominican Republic, pass off the load, and most likely are headed to Europe, not the USA. As you said, they don't have enough, can't carry enough gas to make it to the United States.
And the 80s blueprint for how you got cocaine to the U.S. and how you got drugs to the U.S., you can rewrite that. It's not like that anymore. The drugs that are coming out of Latin America, coming out of Asia, they're touched by so many hands. It's a far more complex network by which that stuff reaches the U.S. than it used to be. But of course, in Donald Trump's world, it's still 1966. Everything is simple. That's why he makes these outrageous statements about the Somali community, which we'll get to. But for now, I'll leave you with that. I wanted to, if Tony's back, play just the way it's playing on Fox News, and then I'll go to Rothmann. So just because I get it, everyone, we are in our own silos, even as we don't want to be. And we can, to be fair, we can say we're in the silo of reality. I mean, it's not that we're in a silo, an echo chamber of BS. We're looking at the X's and O's, and we can objectively evaluate them. That is what we try to do. But it's not the only narrative out there, and here is the Fox News channel.
Senator, fantastic to see you. The chair of the Senate Armed Services Committee, Senator Roger Wicker, has said that he will conduct an investigation into this matter of this strike. But this all seems like, if you will, an orchestrated move to undermine the president's authority, constrain his authority to conduct military operations, to effectuate national security, and also protect the homeland. It seems a much broader ploy or play
national security,
than
protect
just
the homeland,
being worried about war crimes.
There's BS being floated.
Well, Dagan, all this is just the Democrats trying to spin up some type of issue once again with President Trump. Keep in mind, no one's debating that these are narco boats. No one's even debating that this is headed to the United States to be distributed and kill innocent victims across our cities and towns, our loved ones, our cousins, and our friends. No one's disputing that. No one's disputing that these are terrorist organizations. They're saying that he may or may not have the authority to do it, and yet we all know that he is well within our authority. The Senate Armed Services Committee has already been briefed on this operation. They came in very clear, made a point that this is in international water. They have been declared a terrorist organization. We know where they're coming from. We know where they're headed. We know their distribution lines, and we are preventing it, being proactive. That is what peace through strength looks like. And now they're saying some anonymous person has said that these individuals that on this second strike was clinging to life, but the boat was still operational, is what I have been told. I'm being read in on a more classified setting tomorrow. But if it was still afloat and they were still trying to avoid, then it is well within the authority to be able to eliminate that threat, which is what we believe took place here. But why are we concerned about these individuals' lives? Do they care about the individuals they've been killing in our streets? Does the American people realize that in 2024 we had more drug overdose deaths than we did in the entire Vietnam War? I mean, it is absolutely absurd. That's why 71% of the American people support sinking these boats before they get to our shores.
Well, all right, very good. So that is what I'm talking about when I say that there is spin. There's spin from the anchors. You could hear the way the question was, don't you think that they're trying to get in the way of the president's ability to effectuate the protection, national security? I mean, just a very, but, you don't need to tee anything up to Mark Wayne Mullen. He's ready to,
They are kissing my ass.
There is. And by the way, speaking of that cabinet meeting, that was, again, where they all talk about dear leader, and he could barely stay awake for it. That was a remarkable thing to see. We'll share a little bit more of that with you as we continue. Smash the like button like a boss, if you would.
Iron rod.
It happens to be important in the world of YouTube, if you're watching on YouTube, to hit the like button. It just helps us. It costs you nothing, and we appreciate that. So, and please subscribe, hit the notification bell. We've got some special videos, a big investigative reporting piece that drops this weekend, and you'll know about it if you hit that notification bell, and we'll share that with you. So, Mark Thompson Show. We continue.
The Mark Thompson Show.
How about it for our scholar, a lecturer, an author, our former colleague at KGO Radio. He's the brilliant John Rothmann. Hi, John. Thanks for your patience.
My pleasure. Thank you for making the presentation you made. I hope all of your listeners understand two things. First of all, that this president and this Secretary of Defense are acting against the law, and in a normal time, this would be grounds for removing both. And the second thing is that this president has revealed his racism in his comments about Somalia and the Somalians who are in Minnesota, and this conduct by a president of the United States is absolutely disgraceful, a black mark against us as Americans.
You're so right. The remarks of the president were loathsome. And because you've mentioned it, I'll start there. I want to get to Hegseth, but I'll start with his comments about Somalia. Now, just to be clear to those who might not be following this beat by beat, he gets to Somalia through the question about Afghani immigration and asylum. Of course, this shooter in Washington, D.C., the National Guard troops, he was Afghani. And then the asylum and immigration shutdown of these 19 different countries, that is how we get to Somalia being part of the conversation. And, other countries that Donald Trump considers, they're third world nations. Many are fleeing these nations to come to America, and they're fleeing the Civil War. They're fleeing at great personal peril, but be that as it may, that's how we get to Somalia. Here is the president at the cabinet meeting talking about the Somalis.
But when I watch what is happening in Minnesota, the land of 1,000 lakes, or however many lakes they have, they got a lot of lakes, but this beautiful place, and I see these people ripping it off. And now I'm understanding, and you're going to look into that. I hear they ripped off Somalians, ripped off that state for billions of dollars, billions, every year, billions of dollars, and they contribute nothing.
So he really goes after them in a pretty brutal way. I think we just lost Tony again, but which is why we end up with that freeze frame. Sorry about that. But what I'd love to ask you about is for a moment to comment on the robust community that is associated with Somali immigration. I mean, just it almost doesn't bear mention, but on the other hand, I feel like we have to mention it.
No, you don't. What you have to mention is the fact that this president is a racist. His attack is on people of color. And let me tell you, as a white guy, I can see a racist when I hear what he has to say. And not only that, I want to remind you that all of the elected officials in Minnesota who have spoken out on this have condemned the president's comments. They've all said this is nonsense. But do you understand? We are tolerating as a nation the most corrupt administration in American history. We are tolerating a president who is a blatant, outright racist. We are tolerating as a nation a president and a Secretary of Defense who are violating all the norms of American function. And I can only tell you, I am furious that there isn't an outcry. And when I listen to Senator Mullen of Ohio, it's shameful that somebody like that serves in the United States Senate and has that kind of ability to make those expressions. I'm sorry.
Well, I'll say one thing, John, and just it's a cold slap in the face. But as you know, I don't think much of a large group of humanity, and I think a large group of humanity is actually represented by people like John Wayne Mullen. I think he actually is, and we talk about we need our representatives in Congress. On some level, he is representing people who feel and think the way John Wayne Mullen does.
He may represent certain people, but he doesn't represent the true face of the United States of America. And what I'm upset about, what I'm furious about, is this real lack of silence. Now, to be fair, Republicans, including chairs of major committees in the House and Senate, are now saying that there has to be a thorough investigation of what has happened under the leadership of Donald Trump and the Secretary of Defense. This is something I'm waiting for. And you know that the admiral, let me tell you something about scapegoating somebody. Talk about setting somebody else to be the blame for all of this. This admiral is a man who is highly regarded, has a great military reputation. He is going to give testimony behind closed doors tomorrow. And I can't wait to hear what he has to say. If I were him, I would do everything I could to expose what is happening. And let me remind you, and I know you've discussed this, other members of the military who have resigned their positions because of their fury at what Donald Trump and Pete Hegseth are doing to the reputation of America's military. We are the greatest nation in the world in terms of how we are viewed. And what these guys are doing is tearing us down. Ultimately, and I know you and I may not agree on this, but ultimately this will all be exposed. But I don't want to leave the verdict to history. I want to be on the record, and I might commend you, as you have been on the record, as calling all of this what it really is, a disgrace.
It's a disgrace, and there's also a strategic and philosophical hypocrisy, which will come as no surprise from an administration, and I'd say a party now, the GOP. And I understand that there's hypocrisy on both sides, and across the aisle, Democrats can be hypocrites as well. But boy, there's a real hypocrisy around the stated goals of this administration, and as it specifically relates to the Pete Hegseth thing and these, going after Venezuelan drug cartel members. And now there's talk, and you saw that Trump is saying he plans land strikes on these alleged drug traffickers very soon. He said they could attack there in Latin America. Again, he used the words very soon. And that's a real escalation of everything. But
absolutely. Not to mention, and let me point out that on True Social, which I do check, he is talking about renaming the Republican Party the Trumplican Party. Can you imagine the chutzpah, the horror of this kind of action by a president of the United States? I got to tell you something. I don't think he's stable. I don't think he belongs where he is. And the only way to stop him now, there are two ways. One of the Republicans standing up and just saying no, which they did on the Epstein files. You'll note no one is talking about that anymore. And the second thing is the Supreme Court, which will be rendering major decisions, including the one on the tariff legislation, or rather the tariff order, the executive order. And I believe that if the Supreme Court follows the law, those tariff executive order implemented will be overruled by the court, because the president doesn't have the constitutional authority. But in order for there to be anything happening here, Mark, there has to be a restoration of the balance of powers. We have a Congress that is rolling over and playing dead. We have a Supreme Court which so far has upheld most of what Donald Trump wants. And if the founders were alive, if they could see what is happening, they would be as horrified as you and I are. And I would commend to people, read the Federalist Papers. Read what our founders talked about when they talked about a balance of power and co-equal branches of government. This is beyond my comprehension. Let me make one other comment.
Let me before we get into too deep space around what I was saying before, which was the hypocrisy. I wanted to share with you, Rothmann, and with many who are watching and listening, I wanted to share with you parts of this letter. The letter is from this convicted drug trafficker. You care about drug trafficking so much, but you, Donald Trump, pardoned the single biggest cocaine pipeline operator in modern hemispheric history.
It's a disgrace.
The former Honduran president, Juan Orlando Hernandez, the man who helped deliver 400 tons of cocaine into the U.S. 400 tons. He's not a trafficker. He's like the Amazon Prime of cocaine. He had that pipeline. But Trump said that he's the victim of a Joe Biden engineered witch hunt.
It's horrific.
So the letter that he wrote to Trump is a 4-page letter. And it starts at the very top of the letter with a biblical quote. Then you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free. That's John 8:32. And it's addressed to His Excellency, Donald J. Trump, President of the United States of America, the White House, 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, Washington. Your Excellency, he writes, I have the honor to extend to you my warmest greetings and convey my highest respect, esteem, and blessings. Mr. President, I have hesitated to send this letter knowing the immense demands of your office, but the grave injustice I now endure compels me to appeal directly to you. I write to you from a federal penitentiary unjustly serving a 45-year sentence, effectively a life sentence given my age. Just as you, President Trump, I have suffered political persecution targeted by the Biden-Harris administration.
Exactly.
Not for any wrongdoing, but for political reasons. And then he goes on, my wrongful conviction based on uncorroborated statements of convicted drug traffickers, et cetera, et cetera. It's a 4-page letter. It's part suck-up and part invented narrative. And this guy, who in his conviction reflected the hard work of so many DEA agents, so many lawyers, so much had to come together to make this case. This guy was convicted and now walks free.
Convicted by an American court. And the President of the United States is overruling it. It is a misuse of power. It is the most corrupt action. And I mean, I can go down the list with you, Mark, of all the things he's done, but people should Google this letter. Read it. Read the 4 pages. It's outrageous. It's egregious. And frankly, there's no excuse for it.
I just retired and have money to spend, says Glenn, and always planned visiting America, but there is no way in the next 5 years, just to be safe. Glenn, I believe, is in Australia. Well, Glenn, let me suggest that you send the money to us through the Patreon and PayPal links. Yeah. Yeah, put that money to work, Glenn. Okay. Money has to have something to do with it, said Hilo Karen. I mean, I agree. When you look at something like this, and most of the big moves on the part of this administration, it's transactional from an economic self-enrichment standpoint with the Trumps. There's no question.
That's why I
it.
use the term corruption.
Yeah.
When you take a look at corruption, just take a look at the profits that have gone to the Trump family. It's billions of dollars. This is not a Vicuna coat back in the Eisenhower administration. This is billions of dollars. And what I'm amazed by, what I'm astounded by, is that Republicans who call themselves the party of law and order have no regard for law and certainly no regard for order. And if they do rename themselves the Trumplican Party, which is what Donald Trump suggested, well, it would serve them right.
Well, I mean, that is a true poison pill. I hope they swallow it. It would be incredible. This guy's approval ratings are at historic lows. As long as we're talking about historic things, he makes them up. I share them with you. They're real. You know, he can say that he inherited inflation that was at historic levels never before seen. That's just total crap.
Oh, sure. Go back to Jimmy Carter. Just go back to the Carter administration.
Thank you. Double-digit inflation. But the reality is that this guy's popularity is ebbing day by day, hour by hour even. So the notion that they could rename themselves the Trumplicans, it's laughable because it's such a poison pill.
But he has power. He has the power of the presidency. And what has to happen?
And I show you those Fox News clips too, Rothman, because you know he does have that propaganda machine's still on blast.
I know. Look, what can I tell you? We are fighting a battle, and you and I will not cease fighting until all of this is exposed and the battle is won. Just take a look, by the way, at what happened in Tennessee last night. In a district which the Republicans should have won overwhelmingly, it was a lot closer. And it was a lot closer because there is an understanding of what is happening. I know you and I have disagreed on this in the past, but I expect come November, when I have the pleasure of being on your program again, that we will witness a Democratic victory across the board. I'm
glad you've mentioned this. By the way, what we disagree about, first and foremost, if I can use the overused phrase, is the institutions of America. You always point to the institutions. You have great faith in them. I would suggest to you the institutions are made up of people, and once you've fired all of the regulatory cops on the beat from government, you can't have faith in the institutions that are to regulate that government any longer. And I don't have great faith in the American people. They gave you Donald Trump, and I'd suggest to you that you've got a real cancer in America. And it involves racism, and it involves sexism. It involves a lot of things.
We have to expose it. But I want to point out, when Adlai Stevenson gave the Godkin lectures at Harvard in 1954, he said, America's greatness is not due to our economic power or our military power. It is the documents which govern us, the Declaration of Independence, the Constitution of the United States, including the Bill of Rights. If we believe that those documents have any meaning in our lives, if they are really the beacons that preserve our freedom, then they have to be remembered and taught about and learned about and exposed. And Donald Trump doesn't measure up. Now, may I tell you, it's not that I am a harsh critic of Donald Trump because he's Donald Trump. I'm looking at the corruption that I am witnessing to the American system. And we are going to have to clean that out, and we will ultimately, because the American people will see the truth. I have to believe that, or else there's no hope for us here. By the way, if he can go after Somalia and the people who are Black, imagine what he can do to any other group in this country that he doesn't like.
Sure, and I'm going to get to Somalia and Minnesota in just a moment, because he's going to be deploying more ICE agents there. He's just announced it, and Kristi Noem, who is truly a puppet on a string. She just responds right away with whatever. But I just want to be clear. I appreciate what you're saying about America and the ideals of America. Please don't misunderstand me. What I'm suggesting is those ideals need those in power to protect those ideals and aspire to those same ideals. And as you've just noted, we just don't have that. So that's where we
absolutely we agree on that.
Okay, so let me now get to a disturbing story. So again, this is on the heels of this Somali tirade that Trump went on in the cabinet meeting. The Trump administration now is launching immigration enforcement operations in New Orleans and Minneapolis a day after he said that he'd be sending National Guard troops to Louisiana, and a day after he went off on this Somali population in America.
It's a disgrace. It's horrific. I agree.
The Department of Homeland Security saying about the New Orleans operation is a targeted operation targeting criminal aliens roaming free thanks to sanctuary policies that forced local authorities to ignore U.S. immigration and customs enforcement. ICE
they can make the same argument about San Francisco or Oakland. Sure. Or Los Angeles, or any major city in America. That's what's horrific.
There is, I believe, you've got the Walz stuff, Kim. Do you want to play Tim Walz, who is
please play Tim. My goodness, yes.
Yeah, here is Walz talking about his home state. Go ahead.
The tragic shooting of the two National Guard service members in the aftermath of the shooting. As you know, President Trump has responded by vowing to crack down on refugees, including from countries beyond Afghanistan, specifically targeting the Somali community in your home state. He also described you using a slur widely regarded as derogatory toward people with intellectual disabilities. I want to read for you what he said, Governor, and get your reaction on the other side. He said, hundreds of thousands of refugees from Somalia are completely taking over the once great state of Minnesota. Somalian gangs are roving the streets looking for prey as our wonderful people stay locked in their apartments and houses, hoping against hope they'll be left alone. The seriously blank governor of Minnesota, Tim Walz, does nothing, either through fear, incompetence, or both. What is your response to President Trump, Governor?
Yeah, well, first of all, let me express my condolences to the families of the National Guardsmen. They're out there doing their duty. They serve us. As a commander-in-chief of the National Guard and someone who served, we have a responsibility to put them in a position where they're protected and they have a clear mission. And so I would express my condolences there. Look, Donald Trump insulting me is a badge of honor for me, but I think we all know, both as an educator for a couple decades and as a parent, using that term is just so damaging. It's hurtful. We have fought 3 decades to get this out of our schools. Kids know better than to use it. But look, this is what Donald Trump has done. He's normalized this type of hateful behavior and this type of language. And mainly, look, at first, I think it's just because he's not a good human being. But secondly, to distract from his incompetency. We know we just came through a Thanksgiving where prices are up. We know people are concerned about heating their homes as we're experiencing blizzards out here at the same time he's cutting those programs. So, look, we cannot allow this to be normalized. The people who, Trump is, like this is language police, you guys are woke. Many times it's just about being decent to people and making them feel included. You can use that word, sure, you can use that language, but you shouldn't. And that's something that Donald Trump fails to realize. But again, Kristen, this is cruelness, this is meanness. It's aimed at a broader community. And as far as demonizing our Somali community, maybe he could help us on some things. Demonizing an entire community, folks who are in the professions, educators, artists, doctors, lawyers, entrepreneurs, they bring the diversity and the energy to a place like Minnesota. And for him to just randomly decide to do this, it makes no sense. Do your job, get the criminals out, secure our border, but do it with dignity and respect to the American tradition of respecting immigrants and refugees as a beacon of hope.
Well,
yeah, there you go. I mean, I think that's a good summary of both.
Can we clarify the term
of the Somali community and then the role of the
president? Was retarded. What he wanted to do was to say the governor of Minnesota is retarded. And may I tell you, it is so appalling to me. And it should be condemned by Democrats and Republicans. And I'm not afraid to use a word like that when it is used the way Donald Trump used it. If it's blanked out, you don't know what he said.
Sure,
and it's important to know what he said so we can react to it.
Yeah, it's interesting. There's just a kind of a radioactivity about that word. Let me pivot to something else, Brother Rothmann, and ask you about what Trump is doing in terms of SNAP benefits. Federal monies go into a lot of states, blue states, to sort of help prop up the SNAP program. And many of these blue states don't want to share information about who's on SNAP and who's getting SNAP with the feds for a lot of reasons that have to do with immigration in large measure. I wonder if you can speak to this, because, I mean, this really can KO or, really cripple the SNAP program not to get that federal money.
You're absolutely correct. And maybe the intent of Donald Trump is to destroy the SNAP program. Let me remind everybody that food stamps, which is what the SNAP program is really all about, are essential and were supported. And do you remember the bipartisan group that got together of George McGovern and Bob Dole to save the food stamp program? Most people don't remember that, but this is typical of Donald Trump, and he is a disgrace. And the only thing I can tell you is that you are right to raise the SNAP program. Before we go, and I know you time limit me, it's just a disgrace that you do that, but it's okay. I would be remiss if I didn't say a word about Ukraine. The collapse of the mission which Donald Trump sent to the Kremlin without consulting at all with the Ukrainians in these vital talks is indicative of the arrogance of power. The word appeasement applies. Do you remember in 1938, Czechoslovakia was not involved in the Munich conference. They were a settlement was imposed on them, which of course collapsed and ultimately World War II. This action by the president with Ukraine is appalling. And you note that he lashed out at the Europeans, and so did Putin. Together, they lashed out at the Europeans. You know, there is a real disconnect here, something that is terribly wrong. And the fact is that Zelensky is a hero. He's not a perfect person. He has problems in his own country. There's no question about it. But this is a guy who is greeted in Europe as a hero in part because he has the guts to stand up to Vladimir Putin. From Tsar to Commissar to Putin, this has been a real problem, and Russia remains a problem. Just ask the Latvians, the Estonians, the Lithuanians, the Poles. They're all shaking in their boots. And what does Donald Trump do? He sends his son-in-law, and a man with no experience in negotiations, to deal with Vladimir Putin. There will not be peace in Ukraine until Putin is defanged. And
so the gentleman to whom Brother Rothman's referring is, of course, Witkoff, who is, as I've mentioned before, a golfing buddy of Trump. He's a billionaire real estate tycoon. He handled a bunch of stuff in the Middle East with Kushner. Now he's handling a bunch of stuff in Russia, Ukraine with Kushner. And when I say handling, they're going to dinner with the Russian envoy, and a lot of the money, and I mentioned when I say going to dinner, they're socializing with the Russian envoy before they present this peace plan
Thank
to
you for pointing
Ukraine.
that out.
And the other thing I would say, and this is perhaps more significant, is that much of the Witkoff fortune, listen closely to what I'm telling you, much of the Witkoff fortune comes from Russia. So he has huge, huge financial pipelines into Russia. And for that reason, Witkoff is completely compromised. Witkoff, who is handling these negotiations for the U.S. to end the Russia-Ukraine conflict, is a compromised individual.
Of course.
And yet,
this whole
this is the
administration
guy
is
who's
compromised.
presenting this peace agreement to Ukraine. It's absurd.
I have to point out, you had sitting at that table the president's son-in-law, who has profited to the tune of billions of dollars through the corruption, both from Saudi Arabia and from Russia. He benefits every single day, and there is no exposure of this massive corruption. It is horrific. That's all I can say.
Yeah, well, this 28-point plan, which was, translated from the Russian, apparently.
Yeah, whatever it is. They reduced it. But the point is,
right,
there's corruption.
Right. No, it's completely, and you're right to point to the fact that Putin is threatening Europe with war. If he says, if Europe wants a war, I'll give you a war.
By the way, did you see Putin? I don't know, because I don't, unfortunately, listen every day to your program, and I apologize for that.
You listen the day you're on.
Yeah,
is that really your thinking? I'm just saying. It seems like
Did you see Putin in military uniform 48 hours ago? There's a picture which you can play of Putin sitting there in a military uniform the day before these talks with Witkoff and Kushner. It's unbelievable.
Yeah. The Russians are not in a hurry for a deal.
No, they're winning. Every day.
The war of attrition does favor the Russians.
If Edward R. Murrow or those who reported on World War II were all alive and stationed in Ukraine, the American people would understand the destruction, the chaos, the havoc that the Russians are raining down using missiles, using drones. It is appalling. And somebody asked me if there was a comparison. The comparison is the Spanish Civil War, where the Germans were able to test all of their equipment before World War II. That's what the Russians are doing. They're demonstrating their ability, at least in terms of technology. And may I say, my friends in Kiev are being devastated. And remember, the winter is coming. The winter is coming, and they have no power sources. It's brutality beyond words. And all I can tell you is we aren't paying enough attention to that as well.
Well, it's a pretty big mountain to climb that the Ukrainians have. And I'll say one last thing about Russia, and I think you'd back me up on this. The profile that Russia has as this superpower is completely owing to their nukes. There's nothing about Russia that's a superpower apart
There's
from
no
that.
economic. I learned that lesson in 1969 when I studied in the Soviet Union. I went to their department stores, and you could see no goods at all. And if you wanted goods, as a tourist, you went to the in-tourist stores, which were special. And I can't tell you the number of people in Russia who approached me and said, "Can you get me this, that, or the other thing at the in-tourist store?" They were not a economic power. They were always a superpower because of their nuclear weapons. And that is precisely what Vladimir Putin is threatening the West with, as you have pointed out.
You can find John Rothmann on his podcast. It's a daily podcast called Around the Political World with John Rothmann. You can also find his work at thevoicesf.org, thevoicesf.org, and he's here with us on Wednesdays. We are delighted whenever he comes through. There's
But
no
most
love.
most important, I'm on the Mark Thompson program.
Well, I'm glad we finally got that
plug
clear, Rothmann.
And I do want to
think
say,
that's
I
most important.
enjoyed your get-together. I was able to stay for 2 hours. I was able to listen to the listeners who clearly adore you. And all I can say is their judgment may not be perfect, but their support of the Mark Thompson program is essential. And if you want this kind of quality programming, regrettably, you won't find it on KGO anymore. But if you want this kind of quality programming, then you should contribute to the Mark Thompson program. You should support the Mark Thompson program, and you should spread the word about what is happening. And to Courtney, your long-suffering partner in crime.
That's true.
All I can say, Courtney, is I would say you have my deepest sympathy, but more important, you have my utmost respect. And Mark, I look forward. Maybe she needs both. And I look forward to being with you again.
That's not
next
fake.
Wednesday.
That's real.
Okay. All right. John, we love you. Be well, my friend. John Rothmann, everybody. Gosh, I'll tell you.
The Mark Thompson Show.
Yeah, Rothmann always sticks the landing with a pitch for the show. Thank you for being here, everyone. Thank you for your contributions. And I mean, contributions not just literally in terms of what you contribute financially, but just in terms of what you contribute in terms of your thoughts. The comments are live for 2 hours on YouTube. Someone asked me about getting onto the YouTube comments. I think you have to have a Gmail address, but you can just set up any old Gmail address. You could set up Mark Thompson comments at gmail.com, and you can come on and comment. I mean, just it doesn't require any sort of major commitment on your part, but I think it's really that simple. But in any case, I appreciate all of your comments. We'll try to integrate them as we can along the way. Apparently, this from Teacher Lori, Trump posted 160 times on his stupid platform, she says, between 7 p.m. and midnight. No wonder he's falling asleep during the meetings. Check out Kimmel's monologue to see what that looks like. Yeah, Kimmel, I think, did a supercut of him falling asleep. Maybe we could, I guess you could, I don't know how you dance around that, Tony. You probably can't, but yeah, don't mess with it. It'll just, Mark's logo always reminds me of a watermelon. Love you guys. It does. I see that now that you say it, because the seeds are there and it's kind of reddish. Yeah, I get that. Thank you, Christopher Doyle. That logo, as I pointed out to you, has been ripped off by...
What?
Yeah, it's been ripped off by the people at This American Life.
What?
Yes.
It's an outrage.
And I think by some other people. No, you showed me Don Lemon. Was he the one who ripped it off also? Yes.
Yeah.
Don Lemon. Don effing Lemon.
What?
You heard me. Don effing Lemon.
What?
I said it again. He ripped off our logo. Do you know how I worked really hard to come up with this logo? And now it's being stolen. And, more power to him. I just think it's sad. I guess that's what I would say.
Morning.
All right. The word from Jim Slayton, I do hug and kiss my dogs on occasion.
I do hug
and kiss,
yeah, people casually.
I think that's the best way to hug and kiss. Jim Slayton, love you. Camera time for Courtney. More of it. She's gorgeous. Yes, she is gorgeous. That's from Richard Delamater. For those who don't know, Courtney joined at the last meetup, which was just a couple of days ago, at the holiday hoedown. So we'll have another one soon, and hopefully she'll join on that one too. I'll try to exploit Courtney every way I can. The Last Angry Manny says, is it too much to fear that Trump may conduct his own Night of the Long Knives? No. I think he's capable of that. I think he's capable of most anything to save himself politically. I mentioned the polling, which is dire for Trump. Gallup's poll is a disaster for Trump. Nixon is the only president with a worse net approval at this point in his second term than Trump. Trump has to break in history for the GOP to control the House. I mean, assuming for fair elections or anything quasi-fair moving forward, to keep the House control in 2026, he'd have to break history for the GOP. I mean, you can't carry this negative a rating into a midterm and retain power in Congress. Trump's hitting a 36% approval rating with independent voters. That is scary for him as well. So you can talk about the base, and you can talk about 30 to 35% of the American public.
There's always
being
in this country,
yeah,
30 to 35% idiots.
Sainted Jim Avila with that statement, and it's true. But the indies, he doesn't have anymore. So a 36% approval rating with the independent voters. And on Trump's flight home from Thanksgiving at his private club in Palm Beach, there was this exchange about his MRIs. Remember? He said, they were perfect like my phone call where I got impeached. The reporter asked, what were they looking at, sir? And Trump said, I have no idea. It wasn't the brain because I aced the cognitive test. And today, the president's doctor, this is, I want to say this report was from maybe yesterday or the day before. The doctor released a letter, and the doctor's letter raises even more questions than it answered, apparently. It seems anyway, arguably, maybe you have some information on this, Kim, but that he might have gotten a CT scan and not an MRI, and that raises many more questions. It's also suggested that regular MRIs are owing to taking a dementia drug, which prompts these kinds of scans, either CT scans or MRI scans, to check on clotting and issues associated with this dementia drug. So you have all of this stuff swirling around this guy who's falling asleep in meetings and who, again, is showing basically a diminishment of his cognitive acuity, right? He just can't think clearly anymore. And he's coming off as an impetuous, impulsive king, the way he's always been. But then he riffs in between falling asleep and going to Mar-a-Lago to play golf. It's a mess. And when he leaves decision-making to the most incompetent, lawless administration in the nation's history. Everyone from Kristi Noem to Kash Patel to Pete Hegseth, these are abject incompetence and corrupt. And you add it all up, and you are where we are. We had some stuff of him falling asleep, I thought, Tony, didn't we? Did I send you some of that, or not so much? No? Okay. There's a supercut that we'll get going. I'll have that for you tomorrow. Oh, this is Don Lemon's logo? Is that what you have there, Tony? Look at that. Can you see that is a straight up steal. And I'm going to demand an apology from Don Lemon. I mean, Don Lemon should apologize, shouldn't he, Kim?
And would you like to apologize for what you've done?
Yeah.
Wouldn't it have been cuter if they had made it round instead of copied our rectangle, like a lemon, if they made it in the shape of a lemon?
Yeah, why didn't they make... Yeah. Here's what you do, Don Lemon. Let me help you. Now, look at that. That's just an absolute rip of our show. And I don't know. I would say...
Oh, girl, baby girl, don't even play.
Yeah, don't even play on that one. But what I would say is what Kim's just said. Make the O in lemon your logo, and you put the 3 dots in the O. But he literally took the thought bubble thing, or the chat bubble,
Yeah.
made it rectangular just like ours, put the 3 dots in just like ours, has the caret down to the right. Ours is to the left. I don't know. Don't get me wrong. It's a nice logo, Don Lemon. And I get it. You're Don Lemon. Great. Once again, stepping on the little guy, ripping off the little guy to prop up your own world. It's disgusting.
Have you ever been a member of the Chinese Communist Party?
It's outrageous.
That was very inappropriate.
I think it's wrong. It was wrong. It was stupid, and you should try to be a better person.
It was wrong. It was stupid, and I'm trying to be a better person.
All right, Kim will make him come on the show and explain himself, says Doug McNeely. Yes. Come on the show and explain yourself. Could we invite Don Lemon on to explain himself?
Ooh, it's a wild idea, but it just might work.
I think he should have to account. Sick Katz on him. There you go. Russ is right. Put David Katz on the case. This from Ola Hansen. Trump talks. Trumpers love it. Trump flips it 180 degrees, and once again, they love it. His voice is music for them. There's, on some level, that's true. I mean, if you're really a Trumper, you just love whatever he says. It's a cult. No question about it. All right. Logo or not, we continue. Kim's news, and we continue. Mark Thompson Show.
The Mark Thompson Show.
On the Mark Thompson Show, I'm Kim McAllister. This report is sponsored by CoachellaValleyCoffee.com. The Trump administration is suing additional states in an effort to retrieve voter data. Delaware, Maryland, New Mexico, Rhode Island, Vermont, and Washington were the targets of the DOJ lawsuits after failing to comply with a request to produce materials pertaining to their statewide voter registration lists. Attorney General Pam Bondi issuing a statement explaining the department will continue filing proactive election integrity litigation until states comply with basic election safeguards. The state leaders have withstood pressure so far, saying they are legally obligated to conceal documents with personally identifiable information. Federal immigration crackdowns now going on in New Orleans and Minneapolis. The Department of Homeland Security says the New Orleans ICE operation is targeting, quote, criminal aliens roaming free. Yesterday, President Trump said he would soon be sending National Guard troops to Louisiana at the request of Governor Jeff Landry. Meanwhile, several reports say similar operations are underway in Minneapolis. These specifically target Somali immigrants.
Unbelievable. Just crazy.
Lawmakers set to receive classified briefings on the Trump administration's strikes on Venezuelan boats. This, according to The Hill, Navy Admiral Frank Bradley will provide information on these controversial strikes during a briefing with senior members of the Senate and House Armed Services Committees scheduled for Thursday. Bradley was authorized by Secretary of War Defense Pete Hegseth to order a follow-up strike September 2nd against survivors on a targeted boat, and he was the head of the Joint Special Operations Command at the time of that strike. The Washington Post reporting Bradley directed a second strike to comply with Hegseth's order that no one be left alive. Findings from a classified Inspector General report reveal Secretary Hegseth risked compromising sensitive military information. The findings come in connection to Hegseth's use of the Signal app earlier this year to share highly sensitive attack plans targeting Houthi rebels in Yemen. Sources say it could have endangered American troops and mission objectives.
This is really important, this story that Kim has just mentioned. It's the story that may help set the table for the end of Pete Hegseth. I understand right now the thing that sees the narrative appropriately are these war crimes associated with the interdictions and the takeout of these supposed alleged drug vessels. But you'll remember that this Signal chat, this was pretty big. And the Signal chat unsecured peacocking about a Yemen operation that he said went on to be so successful despite this. Of course, it wasn't successful. We detailed this for you at the time. This may really be the thing that added to this current controversy, and I think some adjuncts to that, military morale, some of what is leaking out of the Pentagon in other ways. All of this may deliver the Christmas package that Pete Hegseth doesn't want, which might be associated with him seeing the exit much sooner than the 4-year term that he'd signed on for.
We are getting some never before seen video images of the so-called Epstein Island. The video coming from the House Oversight Committee. There are no people pictured in the new images, but there are redacted images of Epstein's phone list. But it's interesting to take a peek and see what it looks like on Epstein Island. There's a series of rooms. I saw one that looks like a little dentist office on Epstein Island. Strange. I think Tony's trying to...
There's a documentary, at least one, but there are several, and you can also catch some.
There's the
Tony's
dentist.
got the shot of the dentist's office up now, or the dentist-like office. It looks just like a dentist's office. It's hard to believe that it wouldn't be a dentist's office. I mean, I wonder if they were doing some kind of dental work there. I mean, is that some sick perversion kink? I mean, maybe not everything is sick perversion kink. It was an island. Maybe they had dental services. I don't know. Is that another thing that people are going to say, oh, I was just there to get my teeth cleaned. I had nothing to do with anything else. I didn't even know that there were massages going on. But just to finish my thought, those documentaries are worth checking out. I've seen 2 of them, and they're good. And they have glimpses of Epstein Island as well, as I recall. So those are the redactions that he's showing on the board. Tony was just showing those a moment ago.
The man appointed to prosecute President Trump in federal court is now being subpoenaed by the House Judiciary Committee. Jack Smith led 2 separate prosecutions of Trump while he was not in office. Republicans said the committee believes Smith possesses documents and communications from his time as special counsel. Smith is defending his prosecutions of Trump, said that a jury would have convicted him for conspiring to overturn the results of the 2020 election. It appears, speaking of court cases, it appears the Justice Department is reportedly looking into whether to bring new indictments against former FBI Director James Comey. Didn't Comey say, he's coming after me again? This isn't the end, right?
Yeah, I mean, look at even what the story you just did about Jack Smith. I mean, it's just crazy. I mean, it's so rich that he would go after Jack Smith for those documents. But yeah, Comey did say it. He predicted it.
He predicted it. And also New York Attorney General Letitia James. There are several reports the Justice Department will not appeal a federal judge's decision to dismiss the indictments, but instead is weighing whether to re-indict these 2 Trump political foes. The Trump administration is threatening to block Democratic-led states from accessing SNAP funding. According to an announcement from Agriculture Secretary Brooke Rollins, the agency is moving to stop federal funds for states that refuse to comply with the agency's demand for data about food stamp recipients. Earlier this year, the USDA ordered states to share data on its SNAP programs and what they wanted, recipients' names and their immigration status. They were trying, they say, to verify eligibility as well as detect overpayments and fraud. 22 states and Washington, D.C. challenged this request with a lawsuit arguing that data demand was illegal and information gathered would likely be used for an immigration crackdown. And again, now the Trump administration wants to block these Democratic-led states from accessing SNAP funding. New York Congresswoman Elise Stefanik, who has been under threat for maybe straying from MAGA, says House Speaker Mike Johnson is losing Republican support. In an interview with the Wall Street Journal, Stefanik said he certainly wouldn't have the votes to be Speaker if there were a roll call vote tomorrow. She said she believes the majority of Republicans would vote for new leadership. It's that widespread, she said. She also went on to say that Johnson's decision to keep lawmakers home during the government shutdown, as well as poor showings in recent special elections, have caused his support to collapse.
Yeah, I was going to say that coming off of the shutdown, it's a bad look for Johnson. Johnson looks weak. He's obviously a bootlicker for Trump. And even when asked about the Trump pardon of the former Honduran president, who is clearly, one of the huge drug kingpins brought to justice by America, even as America supposedly prosecutes this war against drug kingpins. What did Mike Johnson say? I didn't know anything about it. I haven't read anything about it. I don't know anything about it. That's the president's right, and I know nothing about the pardon.
Texas Democratic Congressman Henry Cuellar is being pardoned by President Trump. Cuellar and his wife Imelda were indicted on federal bribery and money laundering charges last year. In a Truth Social post, Trump said the case against Cuellar is one of the clearest examples of the Biden administration weaponizing the justice system against their political opponents. Trump claimed his predecessor tried to take out Cuellar after he spoke out against open borders. So, President Trump, speaking of more court cases, is looking to recover millions in attorney's fees stemming from his criminal prosecution case in Georgia. The president's lead defense attorney in the case has indicated plans to pursue the effort and shared screenshots of the relevant section of state law to his LinkedIn account. Georgia lawmakers passed a provision this year enabling criminal defendants to recover their legal bills upon dismissal when the prosecutor is, quote, disqualified due to improper conduct. This law passed specifically to get Trump some money, right?
No, it's unreal. I mean, the grift knows no end. And so he is trying to claw money from the U.S. Treasury any way he can. The demand of $230 million for being the aggrieved party, being prosecuted while out of office. He just came up with the number, $230 million. And then the beauty of it is all he has to do is approve the approval from two of his assigned Justice Department people, Todd Blanche and Pam Bondi. And then it comes to him and he signs it and okays it. And they Venmo him $230 million of U.S. taxpayer money. In addition to that, he now seeks damages. Those are damages, of course, but these are damage-related attorney's fees that he wants to claw back from the U.S. taxpayer. By the way, who even knows if these attorney's fees are legitimate? And nothing about Donald Trump and these claims on money is legitimate. So this is yet another way that the U.S. taxpayer will be paying for something that will go directly into Donald Trump's pockets.
Is he not making enough money off crypto? I don't know.
Yeah, and the billions, literal billions he's been out. Crypto isn't enough, man.
Gonna take money from the okay, whatever. There is an announcement from the Trump administration on new relaxed fuel economy standards. It is expected to come any moment from the Trump administration. Top executives from Ford and General Motors and Stellantis have all been invited to the White House today for this event, where a rollback of Biden-era standards will reportedly be proposed by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration. So
I'm sure that they will do it, and you'd think industry would be all about it. But here's why industry is sometimes reluctant. I'm talking about the auto industry to embrace this stuff. It's because they know that just as Trump has come in and completely upset the apple cart in terms of wanting to rewrite environmental standards and fuel efficiency standards, et cetera, the next administration could be a Democratic administration, and they may re-up that. And the idea somehow that we have to then change production to accommodate this new administration, it actually may be more expensive to adhere to some new looser restriction than it would be just to leave the kinds of engines in place that are already more fuel efficient. So again, when it comes to a lot of these things that Trump sort of wants to just roll the clock back on, let's make it 1975 all over again, industry realizes that there are costs on their end associated with going back and forth.
San Francisco is suing several food manufacturers. The lawsuit filed this week makes San Francisco the first local government to sue food manufacturers for making ultra-processed foods and drinks. The lawsuit claims the food industry knew its products were making people sick, but continued to market these addictive foods anyway to maximize their profits. The lawsuit names 10 food manufacturers known for highly processed foods, including Kraft Heinz Company, Coca-Cola, PepsiCo, General Mills, and Nestle. The lawsuit demands a statewide order banning these companies from what San Francisco officials called deceptive marketing targeting children, particularly in Black and Latino communities. There is a New Zealand man who is now facing theft charges after swallowing a Fabergé egg locket worth more than $19,000. The man arrested, he was arrested late last week at a jewelry store in Auckland after police say he ingested this locket. It is supposedly, unless the stomach acid gets to it, set with 60 diamonds and 15 blue sapphires. It contains an 18-karat gold octopus. The suspect is in custody while authorities wait to recover that piece.
Wait a minute. So he swallowed it to steal it? Is that what you're saying? It was at a jewelry.
Swallowed the evidence, Mark. He swallowed the evidence.
But where was it? It was at a jewelry.
At a jewelry store in Auckland, New Zealand.
And he just swallowed it.
Got a hold of it and down the hatch. Yep.
Ooh, it's a wild idea, but it just might work.
It is. I suppose. I don't know.
It's kind of big. I mean, that's a choking hazard right there.
Yeah,
but okay,
I mean, you got to give the guy. You got to give the guy a lot of credit for being able to choke that down. Come on. I wonder if he practiced on smaller, kind of Cadbury eggs to.
That's real dedication.
Yeah, he had a workout season, twice a week, and then, man.
I don't know if you've been following this story in Southern California with this man who's got a 500-pound bear living in the crawl space under his house. Guy can't get any help. California Department of Fish and Wildlife not coming out.
Yeah, how about that? You're on your own on this one, buddy.
You're on your own. Good luck. This bear that is outrageous. This bear that crawled under a home in Altadena more than a week ago is still there. It's a huge bear. Ken Johnson lives there. He says he can't get the bear to leave, and so he's forced to live with it.
A werewolf can kill a vampire. Did you know that?
Johnson says he's had numerous calls with the California Department of Fish and Wildlife. They're suggesting using a fan to vent ammonia fumes into the crawl space, but he's afraid the homeowner...
No.
doesn't want to hurt the bear. He's afraid of what the bear would do. Thankfully, he says so far the bear has only done damage to his trash can, left a bit of a mess. Why won't the Department of Fish and Wildlife come out and help get this bear back to where it needs to be in the wild?
So I see this as going two ways from a motion picture standpoint, which is the only way I evaluate life. So we can go light-hearted family comedy where the kids discover the bear. They're incredibly scared. They call out all the authorities. They're so scared. They don't know what to do. They go, hey, you're on your own. And the family slowly begins to live with the bear, love the bear. The bear loves them. There's some situation where they're in jeopardy, probably in Act 3, and the bear actually saves them. And then, of course, at the end of the film, the bear has to die in some awful way where he's taken out by a ranger or some kind of rogue sheriff who comes in, and that is the tragedy, and it's the tearjerker ending. The other way we go with it is true terror, which is that the bear is discovered, and little Jimmy, who discovers him under the house, never comes back, right? And the family goes, where's Jimmy? Where's Jimmy? And they send out a search party. They can't find Jimmy, and the realities of where Jimmy is are never truly revealed, but we as the audience know. And then slowly, I haven't developed this all, as you know, since I'm literally just thinking of it in the moment, but the terror of the bear is played out, and the family members start to go missing one by one.
Oh.
And it's only the... and so you have to play up, which I don't like, is the bloodthirsty nature of this. I don't like that.
Cocaine
I don't
Bear
like to play the
2,
creature
the
that
Mark
way.
Thompson edition. Yes.
Yeah, I don't love this, but I'm just saying I'm going to run it out for the pitch. And of course, ultimately, the bear is brought to justice by, and I would suggest, a female cop. I think you got to get, the woman in there. You need a woman to really do the job. She's just like Sigourney Weaver in Aliens was the one who actually was able to defeat the alien. In this case, I think a female cop or other maybe National Park Service employee actually makes the bear go away. And you don't kill the bear in that one because you need the bear to be alive for the sequel.
This bear
Or
is
if you do
massive.
kill the bear, you have it make it clear that the bear has offspring who could be around for the sequel.
And whose TV show is it?
Thank you. It's
acceptable-
genius. It's genius. And I just gave it to you. This is free money. Go run with it. Yeah.
In whose estimation is it acceptable for the California Department of Fish and Wildlife to leave this bear at this guy's house?
You're absolutely right.
I mean,
look at the bear. I mean, if you're just listening on Spotify or Apple Podcast or iHeartRadio, please go to YouTube right now. Tony has put together like a mini supercut of this bear crawling out of this area under the house. It's an immense bear, absolutely immense. And I just don't get it. Kim's right. How can they just leave that bear there?
Aren't they liable? Like if there is some kind of confrontation and in the Mark Thompson show entertainment universe, someone meets a tragic end, wouldn't they be liable for that?
Well, that's where you have the back room. It's just like Jaws, where the mayor comes out and goes, I want that bear dead. I want that bear taken care of. And God damn it, if I've got to go out there myself, we're going to take care of it. And then you have those who want to protect the bear. They're the protesters there, and it becomes but that's in the family friendly, warmer, funny / Jeopardy part of it.
Yeah.
And then at the end with the sad ending, that's that version. Okay, the bloody version is people start to go missing, and and we know, the audience knows, the bear is under the house.
I feel bad for the bear. He's just looking for a place to hide out for the winter, Mark.
That's the way I feel about Tony every day. I just feel bad for him.
Thanks, Tony.
Yeah, you know what I mean? He just needs a place to stay and need a place to show up for a few hours.
Thanks, Tony.
That's what we're here for. Yeah.
Lastly, the last supermoon of 2025 will rise on Thursday night.
Wait a minute. Now we're writing. Hang on, excuse me. Gregory Wyson says if they train him, they trank him there, they can't pull him out. It is true.
No, they got to get him when he comes out.
They got to get him when he comes out. Very good point. But now let me say I want an additional evil group in my first script, and that's the circus people, an evil circus that wants to turn him into a performing bear, or, and this is my last twist on this, he himself escaped from a circus, and he actually was forced in horrible conditions to perform in like a roadside circus. That is his history, and all of a sudden as an audience we're sympathetic. I like the first movie more. I like it as a warm movie, and that's the way I'm playing it. And then of course sorry, but at the end he is we got to have a tearjerker at the end. So
as long as he doesn't talk. I can't stand the talking animal movies. Don't do that to me.
Okay, very, very.
Don't talk to me that way.
All right, very
The
good.
last supermoon of 2025 rises Thursday night. It's the December full moon. It's called the cold moon. It's in the northern hemisphere. It may look larger than usual as the lunar orbit swings relatively closer to Earth. NASA says the moon will be just a mere 221,000 miles from Earth on Thursday night. So it's going to be a big, beautiful moon. Got to get out there.
That's
and
tomorrow
take a look.
night. Wow.
That is Thursday night. Yeah. Take your pictures, send them into the Mark Thompson Show at gmail.com.
Yeah.
This report is sponsored by CoachellaValleyCoffee.com. They've got the holiday blend. They have the gift packs for the holidays. It's such a great gift. I put the teas in my sister and mom's stocking last year, and they loved it, and now they keep ordering it. I'm telling you, it's like I'm the drug dealer that Trump needs to deport in the form of Coachella Valley tea. It is CoachellaValleyCoffee.com. They have holiday blend coffee and many other coffee options on the website, all with copious and very clear tasting notes, so you know exactly what you're getting, what kind of roast you like. They give you how many beans, from light beans to dark roast beans. All the information is right there, CoachellaValleyCoffee.com. And if you do find something that you like and you put it in your cart, make sure to use the checkout code MARKT, no spaces, MARKT at checkout. That'll get you 10% off your total. It is CoachellaValleyCoffee.com.
And I'll tell you, I'm drinking the holiday blend right now, and it's really delicious. Honestly, we're drinking it all morning.
Yeah.
It has a quiet, festive quality that speaks to me for the holidays. I love it. Love it, love it, love it.
I'm Kim McAllister. This is The Mark Thompson Show.
Feel it in your soul. The Mark Thompson Show.
Who's Mark Thompson?
I'm sorry, Dave. I'm afraid I can't do that.
What can you tell us about the scene?
Oh my God.
Oh, girl, baby girl, don't even play.
We could try ignoring it, sir.
Would you like to apologize for what you've done?
And I wanted to apologize to the Asian community, the Asian American community.
I misspoke. My bad. I'm sorry.
Y'all can all go to hell, and I'm going back to Texas.
That's not fake. That's real.
You just don't get it, do you? You don't. You get nothing.
Seriously, what the
I love it when you're angry.
Can you let him finish, sir?
They do this to me all the time. I don't know what the hell they do it for.
There's never been anything like this. Girl, you just rude.
Who is having that conversation?
Have you ever been a member of the Chinese Communist Party?
Where are my weed smokers at? Your Honor, I'd like to ask for a recess.
They pay me a lot of money for having attitude.
It's fantastic.
Wow. All right. Thanks for being here, everybody. Smash the like button, all that stuff that helps us in the YouTube universe. On my bear idea, my big bear movie, which is going to be coming to a theater near you, it's suggested that these are all great ideas that we were coming up with. Thank you, Joy, for the support. In the Old West, Nullifidian says they used to have bear baiting. Wow. How about a third movie in which the bear talks, says in the Moment Post? Would be, yeah, Kim will not permit the talking bear film to exist. RFK Jr. shows up, and RFK Jr. will scare him out. Now, there is an idea. Remember, RFK Jr. likes to drink. What does he cuts off a bear's head and all? He's pretty, yeah. And here's the cold slap in the face. This is something that you run into. I'll tell you this in a second, but first I'll read the comment. John Watson said, I think that was already a book or movie.
Oh?
Oh, wow. So sometimes when I was in the world of like pitching ideas for shows at networks and reality shows mostly, and you thought you had a really good idea, they would sit there and listen. You get like 5 minutes into the idea, and then they would say this. We like it, but we actually have something like this in development already.
Oh.
You'd hear that, and you're thinking, you do? Well, why didn't you stop me 4 minutes ago? You let me get well into my idea. Sometimes that you really get into it. You can like get 10 minutes into it. I just remember always thinking to myself, gosh, it just feels rip-off adjacent. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
then,
like they just want to hear your story so then they can just co-opt it.
Yeah. No, not the evil circus, Jane O'Rama says. Yeah, the evil circus is part of the idea. And then Beth Farmer really just had enough. Okay, Mark. Look, I'm sorry. I was riffing. Yeah. On the Don Lemon ripoff of our logo, MT Nation, send Lemon an email, says Mook. Yeah, MT Nation, rise up, protect me. How about a cage fight with Don Lemon, says Glenn. There you go. Yeah. And then finally, again, a cold slap in the face from CC Ryder. Folks, it's a speech bubble. Can't trademark a speech bubble. Look it up. Many versions out there to use under free use policy. What a buzzkill CC Ryder is. Yeah.
She has the best comments. I love her comments.
Yeah, she does have very strong comments, which is why it hurts even more. West Theory says, currently stranded in my hometown of Utica, New York, and people love MAGA up here. Still, yeah, it's like a cult. That's what I'm telling you guys.
Yeah.
I mean, you keep thinking, oh, this will do it. He's cooked now. He's done. Trump's days are numbered. You always see those headlines. He'll never get out of this one. I'm telling you, these people are immovable in their... Now, let me be clear. That doesn't mean that that's sufficient to sustain him politically. You can already see him taking on political water. I ran through some of the numbers with you on Gallup polling. So please, the guy is in trouble in many ways. But the idea somehow that the entire country is waking up to the reality of what a fraud he is, how lawless he is, how there is criminal activity at every level, how everything's transactional, how he doesn't give an S about the American people, how everything's about political recriminations, how he moves military troops and hardware around the world like they were chess pieces, how he doesn't really care about anything. He just shows up, makes announcements, tries to brand things, wants to build arches to himself in Washington, demolishes the East Wing, now building a bigger and bigger ballroom. I don't know if you've seen the latest plans for the ballroom. They're immense. I think it's going to be bigger than the White House. Decorating the whole place like it was a Saudi prince's palace. If you think someday people are going to wake up in Utica, New York, where you are, and they're going to go out, this is insane, man. I really just, sorry, I think I might have slept through it, or I don't know what, maybe I was buzzed, I don't know, but I'm not good with this anymore. Nope. The propaganda machine also is very powerful. So I do think some people are coming around to some realizations, but I think also the one thing, and I think you really can't underestimate this, the one thing that is truly an effective cudgel, an effective blunt instrument that is used to keep people like corrupt politicians in power, like Trump. And this is a corruption on a level we've never seen. But
we've never seen anything like this.
We've never seen anything like it, exactly. But I
Can we
mean,
just say that?
I've never seen anything like it.
Thank you.
I think you can't underestimate the power of messaging around the alternative. Well, I'll tell you, at least he's not a Marxist, communist, lefty. I mean, when AOC and her friends get into power, oh my God, that's the end of America. And there's a boogeyman quality to that. There's the monster under the bed. At least Trump isn't that. That's powerful, believe it or not. I mean, you and I know it's crap, but it has a power. It's bizarre, but it does. So, I mean, you heard it, I thought there were some revealing aspects of this kind of thing when you hear from people like Bill Barr or William Barr, who is up to his ass in all kinds of cover-up of all sorts of malfeasance and corruption on the part of Trump. And of course, it predated Trump. I mean, with his father and Epstein and all the rest. But when Trump tried to undermine the 2020 election, and Barr told him you can't do this and all the rest, and then he wrote a book, and then he shows up on Bill Maher. And Maher kind of embraces him because this is the new thing that centrists do and Democrats do, and even those on the left do. They embrace those who are on the right or who are formerly on the right, Republicans, GOP pundits even, there are a bunch of them, where they have podcasts, the Bulwark guys, Schmidt, who ran the Palin campaign with John McCain. And by the way, these are brilliant people, and I really take in their stuff and respect it. But let's make no mistake about it. We tend to embrace them because they are so anti-Trump. They see the lawlessness of Trump. They see the horror of Trump. They see the immorality of Trump. And so when Maher had Bill Barr on, I remembered this is prior to the 2020 election. Barr was talking about how Trump, didn't get it, how he told Trump that he on the 2020 election and that Biden had won it. He said it's BS. Remember, he said, I'm trying to think of exactly what the timing was because I know I've just confused the timing. It was after that election. It was after the 2020 election, before the 2024 election. So my point of my point of mentioning is that Barr called it BS, dumped on Trump, and Maher seemed to embrace that and kind of was, thank God for a clear thinking guy. But at the end of the conversation, he asked him, so would you vote for Harris and Biden? And he said, no, I'd vote for Trump over those two. Well, you've just detailed all of these issues with Trump. Doesn't respect the rule of law, tried to undermine the election in 2020. The results of that election, you say, are not in dispute. And now you say, because, Barr noted, the liberal agenda is so wrong for America. The threat, the specter of that was enough to get him to vote for this guy who you just decried for the last 5 minutes in this conversation with Maher. I remember it quite clearly as something that was remarkable. I wish I could remember the actual conversation and dates more clearly, but they related to, I think, Barr's book. That's why he was on Maher's show to begin with. But anyway, I'm just saying that the notion of the libs, the threat of the libs, is enough to push people back toward decisions that they know are wrong. So there's a little bit of that going on as well. The Kennedy Center. Those in control of the Kennedy Center are not happy. Rick Grinnell erupting, blistering in a meltdown after a fired Kennedy Center staffer confirmed that there are plunging sales. No one wants to go to the Kennedy Center anymore.
Aww.
And embarrassing sales figures are tied to Donald Trump and the Donald Trump leadership under Rick Grinnell. Rick Grinnell, if the name means something to you, is a former diplomat who President Trump installed this year to run the Kennedy Center. There have been steep declines in ticket sales and subscriptions under the Rick Grinnell, Donald Trump-led Kennedy Center. And Grinnell attacked the New York Times, its reporters, and the former Kennedy Center official who was quoted in this New York Times piece about the new figures from the Kennedy Center, the fact that they're doing so poorly. They documented turmoil at the Kennedy Center, and Trump has removed 19 members of this usually bipartisan board and installed himself as chairman. He did that almost right away. That was in February, and he became president like just a couple of weeks prior to that. Fired the longtime president, Deborah Rutter, appointed Grinnell in her place. The former dance director, Jane Raleigh, who Grinnell dismissed in August. The report from Jane Raleigh was that ticket sales had dipped and subscription return rates were down 50% over where they should be. Grinnell says, these are woke bloggers who push far left propaganda. And they're really mad that FIFA is paying the Kennedy Center more than $7 million to host the 2026 World Cup draw, according to a leaked contract, that was the number. And the use of the Kennedy Center, they are getting for how much are they paying, or did they pay? Have they done the World Cup draw yet? I don't think they did. They do it already?
I know that it's a huge weekend for the Kennedy Center, and Trump is emceeing the gala, which is interesting because usually presidents don't do that. But he did it in August, and he says
that was it.
They want him to do
That's
it
where
again.
He got the trophy. He took the trophy himself. The FIFA trophy.
I don't know. No,
Oh,
this was a
that was a
Kennedy
different
Center
thing?
event.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
that was a different event. But so now this weekend is coming, and I think there's FIFA actions. There's also some music entertainment things going on. And so Trump will be there with the microphone doing his on-stage rants, if he can stay awake through the proceedings.
So this is the World Cup draw that is coming up, is what you're saying. Okay, very, very good. In fact, now I'm seeing that the Village people are going to be performing at the event. I am very...
What?
I know. Well, and Trump is going to get the new FIFA Peace Award at this same draw, which is pretty crazy. Also, I know.
That's super funny.
Now I'm just reading about it. Andrea Bocelli and the Village people are going to perform. It'll be a world-class entertainment lineup, as it's being put. This is the draw for next year's tournament at the Kennedy Center. And what is FIFA paying for the use of that space? If you guessed 0, give yourself points. Yeah, nothing. They get use of the concert hall and other spaces for no rental fee. The deal included a $2.4 million donation and sponsorship opportunities valued at $5 million.
They're donating to the ballroom, Mark,
Yes, of course.
It's
as long as
okay.
money goes to the ballroom. Yeah.
Just shuffle it into the ballroom, and God knows where the money's going from there.
But it does look as though the guy who's heading the Kennedy Center, this guy Grinnell, is not happy. And he's letting everybody know. FIFA plans to unveil its new Peace Prize Football Unites the World trophy. The award is widely expected to go to Donald Trump. It's no Nobel Peace Prize, but I mean, this is, look, you got to get what you can get. The FIFA president, Gianni Infantino, attended the inauguration of Trump in January, and he has said that Trump deserves global recognition for his role in brokering a ceasefire in the Middle East. So he's already on board. This will all go down at the Kennedy Center. And again, new president at the Kennedy Center, new head of things. Can't wait to see the new rollout, and Village people will be a big part of it. There the two are. It's nice that Donald Trump, wide awake for inspecting the FIFA trophy, but not always wide awake, even as an entire room full of cabinet officials now know the dance. Kiss Trump's ass, say something about what you're doing, dump on Joe Biden, kiss Trump's ass some more, dump on Joe Biden some more, last administration, kiss Trump's ass some more, ass kiss, Biden, dump, ass kiss, and stick the landing. Da-da! Trump can't even stay awake through all of that. Here is Trump and his sleepy time.
President Trump's trade agenda was the right trade agenda. Then we go to Japan and Korea. They offer us $750 billion in cash to build in America at the president's direction. And we're going to start as an example. We're going to build ships, $150 billion worth of ships in America. That changes the way things work, right? After those trade deals, then you go to how are we going to reshore, right? Let's start talking about the auto industry. Right? We've been competed against by Koreans, the Japanese, the Europeans. We're kicking our tail.
Hopefully with our vice president, many of our cabinet members, but the opportunity to do that under these new trade deals is unprecedented. And so just putting farmers first, our ranchers first, Mr. President, is such a huge priority. The ranchers in South Dakota, the Maud family, who were facing jail time over a fence line dispute that had been in their family for 130 years. We fixed that. The Henry family in New Jersey, who were facing their farm being taken away for eminent domain to give to affordable housing, we fixed that. So being able to...
Promoting retirement security, the department rescinded the Biden administration's guidance that restricted the use of crypto in the retirement investments, and we're seeing more and more of that, where we also rescinded the supplemental statement that discouraged the fiduciaries from considering the alternative assets for 401ks, and that will also come through the Department of Labor, that rulemaking. The department has rescinded discriminatory DEI practices, and I will tell you, reducing compliance costs for businesses as it was for DEI has saved American businesses nearly $1 billion this year.
California, New York, Massachusetts, Connecticut, Maryland, I could go on. What happened in those states? Policies and politicians that forced the building of unreliable electricity generation.
We have threats coming from both Islamist ideology as well as Islamist terrorists, foreign terrorist organizations, and those who seek to do harm to the American people, many of whom were let in across our borders under the previous administration. We are focused on these tasks and this imperative for the American people, and just appreciate your leadership, Mr. President.
Taking way too long and closely following the law, as well as key Supreme Court decisions like Loper Bright to overturn the Chevron doctrine.
Just a little power nap.
We inherited massive backlogs that we have been eliminating all year long.
Because of just scientific malpractice by the medical cartel, we are now remedying that, and this remedy will now be available. We will have the lowest prices of any nation in the developed world. Americans are already getting the benefits from these. These companies are already lowering these prices dramatically, as you've noticed. And then this week, Howard at Department of Commerce and Jameson at the U.S. Trade Representative, health economics professor at Harvard. And we asked him what's the one innovation that we could do.
Bullshit puts you to sleep.
That would
This will
most
definitely put you to sleep
dramatically
because
improve the
RFK
health
Jr. is
care experience for the average American.
full of it.
And he said there's no contest, it's to get rid of prior authorization, to remove prior authorization for most of their procedures, for all the procedures we want them removed from. And that means that American patients at the point of care will be able to get an answer immediately. If your doctor says you need knee surgery, you will know before you leave that doctor's office whether your insurance company will pay for it or not.
I can't even
if
hear
you
what he's saying.
lived in New Jersey and you moved to Oregon and you got injured, you went to a
For
hospital,
the first part, if you're listening,
you would have to spend maybe 45 minutes filling out forms on a clipboard.
Now he's dozing.
Because your doctors there could not get your health care records. They couldn't get your blood type, your allergies, all the things that every American will have their health care records available on their cell phones.
When I went to sleep, you were talking.
It's already happened in the last 6 months. There have been over 100 times the number of healthcare records shared by hospitals and during the entire previous administration. On deregulation, HHS proudly is now leading the pack, and thank you for your help on that, Russ. With regulations that we're going to destroy the nursing home industry in those communities.
Yeah, that's right.
That is going to be a $25 billion
tepid regulations are on the nursing home industry.
Those are some of the things that we're doing because of your leadership, President Trump.
We got to take care of that balance sheet. We got to develop those resources. And what have we done across that? Producing record amounts of oil, record amounts of gas. And again, we set out with a goal, energy diplomacy, sell energy to our friends and allies. We're exporting a record amount of energy to all of our friends and allies around the world. That's helping do that. We are doing so many things, whether it's hundreds of homeless camps, thousands of graffiti sites, cleaning up ponds and fountains, preparing this thing. The United States is never going to be performing better economically. It's never going to be looking better.
Not send out deputies to do it. Again, far away from the United States, because
really,
he's the only leader in the world
right
that can bring it about to an end. Not to mention all the other peace deals, very dangerous ones like India and Pakistan,
or
Rubio's not even
Cambodia and Thailand.
like talking,
And
addressing
so
Trump.
on all
He's
these
looking
things,
around
the
the rest of the
president
table.
Right here,
tremendous
he turns
credit
to him,
for
and
the
Trump's
transformational
gone.
aspect of our foreign policy. For the first time in probably 4 decades,
He just wants
the
us to
American
go.
foreign policy is driven by what is good for America and Americans.
He's thinking, what is on Fox News Channel right now? I want to get back upstairs and doze off to Fox News Channel like every other old person in America.
Oh, God.
Thank you, Tony. I know that was laborious. Not to be fair to Trump, which I, always try to be fair to everybody. He looked like he was kind of like, half asleep through some of it, not completely asleep. And then the other stuff, some of it looked like he was completely asleep. So, but that's the kind of thing that would be, I don't know, Joe Biden would be blowtorched for that, of course, and yet Trump gets away with it. I'm going to quickly recognize, is it Bo? Mm-hmm. What up, Bo? Bo with a $20 super chat. We're a crowd-funded show, so we love it when you fund the show in any way, Patreon or PayPal. There are links under all of our videos. And when you use our super stickers and super chats, even after we're off the air, we so appreciate it. It really does help us. Sorry I didn't make it yesterday, says Bo. Usually listen on delay to say thanks for a great hoedown. Lots of great listeners, your team and guests like Rothmann, Spencer Christian, Nikki Maduro, etc. Even Richard was on his good behavior. Richard was on his good behavior. It's true.
He was.
And Tony put it all together. It's really quite cool. Thank you for the $25. It helps too. And Doug makes the point that we should all keep in mind. Doug McNeely says, I'm proud to say I fall asleep to the Mark Thompson show. Yeah. I don't blame you. I think this is a fine show to fall asleep to. Yeah. Well, maybe he's tired because he's up at 2 a.m. Schizo posting. It's true. He does spend the night getting angry and posting. And when you do that, you're likely to spend the day falling asleep during cabinet meetings. They're just filled with people, kissing your butt and dumping on Biden and serving up utter BS. The Phineas reminds us that he suggested that we have a Jim Awala commemorative Mark Merck shirt, mug, cap, G-string that says, are you one of the 35% idiots?
There's always been in this country 30 to 35% idiots.
I'll take a meeting on that. We definitely miss our Jim. I was telling some of Jim's friends how cool it was that there was sort of a spontaneous adoration and celebration of his life in our meetup. So tomorrow, David Katz joins. We have a great show tomorrow, don't we, Kim?
We do. Former federal prosecutor David Katz will be on.
Mark Thompson Show.
Mm-hmm.
Bye-bye.
And we'll have a lot of fun. It's going to be good.
Out of time. Bye-bye.
We're out of time. Thanks, Tony. Thanks, Kim. Until tomorrow. Bye-bye.